Okay, so today we will be creating a scalable GKE standard cluster in Google Cloud. So this is how it's gonna be. We will be in the GKE. We will be creating a control plane, and we will be taking one worker node, and we will be using the VPC networking, the persistent disk, our load balancer, and also the cloud operations. So let us go towards our Google Cloud Engine console. So we have a console. Let's go to the hamburger menu. Let's go to our Kubernetes engine. Okay, we are inside our Google Kubernetes engine. Let's click on create. Okay, so it is what we have to do here is to switch to standard cluster. Yes, switch to standard cluster. Okay, now let's go forward. From here we will be given it a name. Let's give it a name of a standard. Let's go forward. We will be going for with a zonal. Location type is zonal, just one zone, which is our US East 1C. Let's take and go with the US Central 1A. Moving forward, for the release channel we will be going with the regular channel, which is the default one, and for the version we'll be going with 1.27. Let's go to the default node pools. In the default node pools, we are having a name of default pool. Let's keep it that. And if you can see here, it's saying that the number of nodes is 3. Let's keep it 1. And here we can see the estimate that it is giving us. Okay, let's show cost breakdown. 0.1 per hour into 730 hours is $73. And for our default pool we are taking one node. In the default pool. Okay, so we can enable cluster autoscaler. No, we don't want to enable that. Specify node locations. Okay, for the surge upgrade we will be having one max surge. There won't be any max unavailable. Okay, let's go to nodes, and for the image type we will be going with the container optimized OS with container D. We'll be taking the general purpose. Series is E2. For the machine type we will be going with a smaller machine, E2 small, with 2 vCPU, 1 core and 2 gigs of RAM. And it's still okay. Our total estimate is 9523 for the month. Let's go forward. Okay, let's go forward. For boot disk type we will go with the standard persistent disk, and for the boot disk size we will go with 20 GB. For the boot disk encryption we will leave it to Google managed encryption keys. For that we don't need any configuration, so no configuration required. Also we will be enabling the nodes Spot VM. Okay, it is calculating the monthly cost. The monthly cost is $77.47. Okay, let's go forward. We are done with the nodes. Let's go to networking. In the networking we don't want to, I think the defaults look perfect. For the security, yeah, it will be enabling the integrity monitoring also. And for the access scope, allow default access. Okay, service account, it will create a service account for us, compute engine default service account. Let's go to metadata. We can here add labels, add taints. Okay, go to cluster automation. In the automation we can go for the maintenance policy, but we won't be doing this here. Notifications, auto scaling, we can go for enabling vertical pod auto scaling and enabling node auto provisioning. Let's go forward towards networking. In the networking, obviously we will go with the default networking here. We'll be choosing a public cluster. Okay, last we will be seeing the features. We can enable cloud run for Anthos. So enabling logging, yes, we will be enabling logging for our system and workloads. Let's us enable logging for all of this, for the API server, scheduler and controller manager, also for the workloads. Okay, let's go forward. Enable cloud monitoring. In that we are just having our for system component. Let us allow for all of them: the API server, scheduler, controller manager, persistent volume, pods, deployment, stateful set, daemon set, horizontal pod, autoscaler. So it is also enabling managed service for Prometheus, because the version of GKE is 1.27 that we are using. So by default it enabled the Prometheus metrics. It's a managed service from Google Cloud. So this comes as service meshes that we can enable Anthos service mesh. Other features here is to enable cloud TPU, enable cost allocation, enable backup for GKE, the cluster of Kubernetes, enabling compute engine persistent disk CSI driver. Yes, it will automatically deploy and manage the compute engine persistent disk CSI driver. Okay, enable file store CSI driver. It won't be necessary as we are having this persistent disk CSI driver. Enable image streaming and enable GKE using metering. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, let's now create this. Okay, so we can see that our cluster has been deployed. It is an active state. Okay, so let us go inside. Here we can see the details, nodes, storage, observability, logs and app errors. So let's go one by one. In the details we can see the name, location type is zonal, control plane zone is in US Central 1A, default zone is in US Central 1A, release channel is regular channel, version is 1.27.3, total size is 1. External endpoint of our cluster, it's the internal endpoint, automation, networking, security, metadata and also features. Let's go forward and go to the nodes. So we have one node, number of node is 1, machine type is E2 small, image type is also given here. This is the IPv4 pod IP address. Let's go forward to our storage. So it created the CSI driver for us. Let's go to observability. So these are all the metrics that it is looking for it. And let's go to our logs, the cluster level logs. We can also go with the severity. Before we deploy our application, we have to connect our local system with the cluster. So we will go to connect and use this command, copy to clipboard, go to our terminal, paste it here. This will generate the kubeconfig file. So the kubeconfig file has been generated. So let us try to get kube get all with all namespaces. Okay, so it is giving us a long list of all the resources that it had been deployed. We are giving it pods, services, daemon sets. We are getting the deployments, replica sets, stateful sets. Okay, let's clear the screen. Now we will be deploying our application. ls, we'll be doing a kubectl apply -f01 Kubernetes deployment YAML. So it has deployed our application. Let's go forward and kubectl apply -f. We'll be deploying the second one, which is the load balancer service for our deployment. Okay, so that's also done. It has also created that service for us. Now clear the screen and kubectl get all, and this will give us a default namespace where we have deployed our Kubernetes deployment and also the service, like we can see, and the external IP, which is the load balancer IP, is still generating. So let us go to our console, select OK, go inside this cluster. Now we'll go to our workload, and in the workload we'll be selecting the namespace of default. Okay, we can see our deployment is can be visible from here. We can see all the things, the overview, details, observability, revision history, events, logs, app error, and also the YAML file that we have deployed. It will also show us that. This is our YAML file that we deployed. Let's go to the overview and see what we can find here. It is giving us CPU, memory, and disk. Cluster is the standard GKE M&M. Logs are for container logs and audit logs. 2 pods are running inside this node. Okay, so let's go to service and ingress. I think by this time load balancer have been created. Yes, external load balancer have been set. And for this service, let's go inside the service. So we can see the external endpoint is here. We can see the type is load balancer, logs is service logs, cluster name is standard GKE M&M. We can also go to the YAML file that was being deployed, and we can find the type of this service to be load balancer. Let's go forward and click on our external endpoint and see that our application is accessible. I think it's been visible here. It's accessible. Hello world. Version is 1.0.0. It is also giving us our host name. Okay, so let's close it down, and we can also see the details here. This is the service and ingress, the service that we created. This is the detail that you can see, the cluster namespace created, labels, annotations, label selector, pods, type, external endpoint. This is the load balancer cluster IP, cluster load balancer IP, and load balancer. Let's go to the events tab. We can see 2 events here. Let's go to logs. Look at the logs of this service. So it is telling us that the server is listening on port 8080. Okay, app errors, there is no error found. Okay, let's again go to our workloads and the deployment. Let's see what we can find more about it. We can go to the details. It will list all the details set to this pod. On the observability tab, we can see there is still not much data to be shown here. Revision history, we haven't done any revision, so still it's on 1. Let's go to events. There's just 1 event that deployment has scaled up replica set to 2. Let's go to logs. Okay, it also says that the server listening on port 8080. I think that's pretty much it. We also have tested our application, it's working fine. So let's clear the our infrastructure. Let's delete the cluster. Let's go back to our cluster. Okay, so we will just do a delete and provide the name for the cluster that we created. Delete. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Thank you.